Will that create short-term jobs right now, though? I mean, everyone's talking about, can we create enough jobs to cover the losses that we've already had? This new stimulus supposedly will create 3.5 million new jobs. Do you really think that a green recovery will stimulate those types of numbers?
Well, there are two things going on with the stimulus package, and you know, let me break them apart. I mean, one is the federal government's desire, and I think a very popular desire, to say we need to do something to get this nation moving again, to free up the credit markets, to put people back to work, to allow them to stay in their homes. That's an immediate priority. In addition, we need to lay the groundwork so that we don't walk down this same path again. And it's useful to think about what happened really during the Great Depression, which is in some ways the precedent for what we're going through in terms of the collapse of the credit markets. There were changes that happened at that point in terms of how we regulate the markets that have endured ever since. Some of the work programs did their job, came out. It wasn't really until we got to World War II and the massive federal spending that created that we fully came out of the Depression era. But those things are all guidance that we can look to, and they will allow this state and this nation, if we put the money in the right places, to decide where we want to grow. It really is up to us. Do we want to go back on to what's temporarily cheap oil from overseas, or do we want to put some money into where our long-term prosperity will be? So it's to come back to what you were asking, is both the long-term prosperity that we need to look to, but also the short-term fix to get us back on our feet.
With that, we're going to take a short break, but when we return on Youth in Politics, more of our conversation with Maine State Treasurer David Lamoine. Don't go away. Hello and welcome back to Youth in Politics. I'm Justin Schnedt, and once again I'm joined with Maine State Treasurer David Lamoine. In this time of economic turmoil, the question arises for many parents, can I send my children to college? Can you talk about the Next Gen program?
Sure. It's one of a number of programs the state has which we're trying to help folks get to college or facilitate how to get there. The Next Gen is a 529 program that refers to an IRS code, which allows you to put money into an account and let it grow tax-free over time, so that when you want to take it out to use it for college, it will hopefully have grown and you can withdraw it tax-free. So that's the nature of it. The Next Gen program is one of many. Almost every state has one. Ours has a variety of options within it, so that you can choose what you want to do. If you want an aggressive or not very aggressive fund, you have those options. It's also the fund that Harold Alfond selected to be part of the Alfond Scholarship Program, where he is giving $500 to every child born in the state to put into this as part of a way to get to college when their turn comes. It's a very generous, very impressive program.
Are there any other programs or initiatives that your office specifically deals with?
In terms of education?
Or across the board, any specific that helps either Mainers, whether it be education or the economy or healthcare? What does your office specifically deal with?
I took a couple of years here, the last 2 years, to really focus on financial literacy and make that an emphasis for what we do at the Treasurer's office, because you could see where things were going before we had the big crash, and we thought there was a need for putting more information out there. That has run its course. We will be not continuing that in the coming biennium, in large part because of financial pressures at the state level, but also because I've become convinced that in this market with tight credit, in some ways it is, even if you're not well educated in the ways of credit, it's hard to make mistakes because there's not a lot of lending taking place.
Recently, you were nominated for another term and approved for the state treasurer position, and a controversy arose that's been an ongoing situation, having to deal with the whole Merrill Lynch situation with the $20 million investment from the state for a company named Maine Sale 2. And it was about 3% of the state's roughly $725 million pool of cash that they could invest with. Some lawmakers say that it was your responsibility and your fault because of this situation, and you commented on it in saying They are critical of me because somehow this has happened, and it must mean that the treasurer made a mistake. It is not like we go out shopping for commercial paper. We have approved brokers who bring suggestions to us, and we rely upon them to fully vet them before bringing the paper forward. Whose fault is this? Was it your office, the brokers, or was it Merrill Lynch?
You know, it is one of the great Chinese curses is may you live in interesting times, which has really been true in the Treasurer's office here recently. And I think in Maine the corollary has been may you find out about it first. Let me begin by answering that we got all the money back, so that, you know, we've been made whole. What happened really at the time, it was very hard for most folks to believe that the criteria by which we make our ratings were not reliable, the people that we were relying on. So we had our broker, we had our advisor, we had Moody's, which is one of the premier bond rating agencies, and S&P, the other premier bond rating agency, all suggesting that this particular investment, which was a mortgage-backed security, was the most sound possible investment. And we took their word and their advice and put the money there, and 12 days after we put it there, it defaulted. That was in 2007, and at that point, what I did was move a lot of our investments away from mortgage-backed paper. So we've actually had very strong returns at the Treasurer's office for the last year, because we were among the very first in the nation to see that the entire system of mortgage-backed paper and the rating agencies and the bankers that were dealing in this was all suspect and was not reliable. So, you know, there's a silver lining in some ways in that we've moved to a place where we've been very secure and had very good returns in this market. But we were really amongst the very first in the nation, perhaps even in the world, to have seen that the mortgage-backed market was not as secure as all of the experts said it was.
How can we make sure, to assure people that are watching this program, that something like that can't happen again, or won't happen again?
Well, you know, the true answer is whenever you're letting money out of your hands, there's always some kind of risk that it won't come back. Mm-hmm. I can say that at this point, almost all of our money that we hold for the state in the cash pool are in bank accounts or investments that are backed or guaranteed or collateralized by the United States government. Mm-hmm. So even if something happens to the bank where the funds are, we have 100% backup with the federal government. So as long as the federal government is backing up its debts, we'll be fine. Mm-hmm.
Originally, you had criticized Merrill Lynch surrounding this issue, but going back to that other question, is it your office's fault in the end, in the long run, or is it the brokers who suggested that we need to be investing this $20 million into this firm?
Well, let me answer it by saying this. We had long discussions in resolving the matter, and at the end of the day, Merrill Lynch came forward with the funds that we put forward and reimbursed us entirely for that. But the question of who's at fault in this case, I think, is very similar to a question of who's at fault in bringing the nation to the situation we're in now. Mm-hmm. And it is widespread. It's a failure of the SEC at the federal government to regulate the markets. It was a failure of the bankers or the mortgage-backed folks to responsibly bring people through the credit process. Mm-hmm. It was a failure all the way across the board in our financial system, which is why we are having such a difficult time now pulling ourselves out.
What advice, as Maine State Treasurer, would you give to a struggling Mainer in this economy to pull them up from their bootstraps and get them going again? What advice would you give them if they're struggling in this hard time?
Maine is a great place to live in terms of the community and the natural resources we have and the character of the people. People here work hard, and they expect to work hard, and they don't expect things to be easy or fancy at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And I think if you stick to your character, we'll come through this very well.
Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. I'm Justin Schnedt. Remember to become aware with issues of the day, get involved in your community, and voice your opinion. Remember, if it's Sunday, it's Youth in Politics. See you next week. That was great.
That was a nice job. You do a nice job with